Grief did not break Maelis. It altered her frequency until the world itself began to speak. Dear friends, can you imagine a girl so gentle that the flowers leaned toward her, the trees whispered secrets in her ear, and even the wind paused to listen? A girl who could feel love in the quiet spaces where no one else dared to look. This is Maelis, a child of poetry and wonder, whose heart was so open that the world itself seemed to speak back to her. Her kind mother, a poetess whose gentle words could soothe any sorrow, filled Maelis's world with verses that taught her to see beauty in every shadow and music in every silence, weaving songs and verses into the quiet rhythm of their home. From her, Maelis had learned to hear the music in words, to feel the cadence of emotion, and to shape thoughts into gentle, living verses. Even as a little girl, she would practice quietly, tracing letters on parchment and speaking rhymes aloud, absorbing the subtle art of poetry that would one day rise from her heart into the world. Her father was a gentle, caring man, whose laughter filled the corners of their home and whose steady presence made Maelis feel safe in every storm. He would lift her onto his shoulders, pointing out the stars, teaching her to marvel at the vastness of the sky and the quiet wonders of the world. At 19, Maelis carried a stillness that did not belong to her age. She was not withdrawn nor fragile, only inwardly quiet, as though her thoughts preferred depth to noise. People mistook this for sadness. They did not know it was listening. Her parents were taken from her without warning, without farewell. There was no long illness, no time to prepare the heart. One winter evening, tragedy struck. Her parents never returned from a road accident, leaving Maelis in the care of a distant relative. The world grew colder, lonelier. The world explained it in simple terms: a road, an accident, a moment of chance, but explanation did not soften absence. What remained was not shock, but a vast, hollow quiet. Grief did not arrive in waves. It arrived as silence. Rooms felt larger than they should have been. Conversations ended too quickly. Even memory spoke softly, as if afraid to disturb something fragile within her. People offered sympathy, advice, encouragement to move forward, but none of it reached the place where loss had settled. Maelis did not cry often. Tears belonged to noise, and grief, she was learning, was something deeper. It was during this stillness that she noticed changes, subtle. At first, she lingered longer beneath open skies. She paused where others passed by. The wind felt intentional. The hush between sounds felt full, almost attentive. Silence no longer felt empty. It felt crowded with meaning. Loss had not ended Maelis's world. It had recalibrated it. And somewhere within that recalibration, something began to listen back. Maelis did not withdraw from people because she was broken. She simply listened more than she spoke. She withdrew because she had grown aware of how loudly the world spoke without saying anything true. Conversations circled around routine, reassurance, and survival. They asked her to be strong, to move forward, to return to herself as if she had ever left. She listened politely, then chose silence instead. It was not escape she sought, but honesty. Beyond the edge of the town lay an old garden, long neglected, half reclaimed by time. The gate leaned slightly, its hinges stiff with rust as though reluctant to be opened again. Maelis entered without expectation. The air there felt different, cooler, slower. Light filtered through uneven branches, touching the ground in scattered patterns. The earth held the faint scent of rain and forgotten seasons. She sat beneath an ancient tree and let the stillness surround her. No one asked her to explain herself there. No one interrupted her thoughts. She breathed, and the ground seemed to breathe back. Words surfaced within her, not spoken, not written. They drifted through her mind like quiet companions, fragments of thought shaped by feeling rather than sound. Poetry lived there now, not as art, but as recognition. The garden did not speak, it did not console, it simply remained, attentive, unmoving, observant. And for the first time since her loss, Maelis felt no need to fill the silence. A soft, musical laugh rippled through the garden, like the chime of distant bells stirred by the wind. "I am Leora," the fairy said, her wings shimmering like dawn kissed with frost. The air shimmered, and the shadows at the clearing's edge gathered and folded in upon themselves. From their gentle swirl emerged a being formed of light and mist, wings glimmering like frost kissed by dawn, eyes ancient yet kind. Emma's breath caught. Her heart thudded so loudly she feared it might break the spell. "I have been waiting for you," the creature said, its voice flowing like water over stone. "You carry sorrow quietly, little one, and the world has not heard your heart. Until now." Emma's fingers tightened around the glowing petal. Who are you?" she whispered. "I am a keeper of thresholds," the fairy replied softly. "A listener to grief, a guide between what is seen and what is felt." Leora drifted closer, and a faint fragrance of wildflowers and moonlight wrapped around Emma like a memory. It lifted its hand, and light pooled in its palm, warm, living, alive with quiet promise. "You have always listened," the fairy continued, "to silence, to loss, to the HA others turn away from. Tonight I offer you a blessing, not to escape sorrow, but to understand it." The fairy touched the glowing petal in Emma's hand. Light flowed outward, gentle and deep, passing through her fingers, her chest, her breath. "From this moment," the fairy whispered, "you will hear the voices hidden in roots and leaves. You will understand the language of flowers, the patience of trees, the wisdom carried in dew and wind, not as noise, but as feeling, not as sound, but as truth." Emma gasped softly as the garden responded. Leaves trembled, petals leaned closer, the soil beneath her feet seemed to hum. The fairy smiled. "This gift is not power," it said, "it is responsibility. To hear the world is to carry its pain and its beauty." Then, with a gentle lift of its wings, the creature added, "Tonight, you take your first step into a world beyond the ordinary. Listen closely, and let your heart answer." The garden fell utterly still, waiting. After that day, the garden no longer felt neutral. It did not speak in sentences or names, yet Maelis began to sense distinctions, subtle, unmistakable. Each living thing carried its own presence, its own rhythm, as if the world communicated through impressions rather than language. The flowers were the first she understood. They did not offer comfort, but resonance. When her thoughts grew heavy, their heads drooped slightly, their colors deepening as though absorbing the weight she carried. When her breathing steadied, they lifted again, reflecting balance rather than joy. They did not pity her, they mirrored her. The trees held a slower frequency. Their awareness was broad, patient, layered with years. Standing among them, Maelis felt time stretch, not forward, but outward. Her grief did not feel smaller there, only less urgent, as if it had always belonged to a longer story. Insects moved differently. Bees passed through the garden with unwavering purpose, indifferent to sorrow, yet essential to continuation. Their steady presence reminded her that life endured not through ease, but through repetition, through returning again and again to what must be done. At dusk, fireflies appeared. They gathered most brightly on evenings when her heart felt heaviest, their quiet lights pulsing in gentle response, never banishing the dark, only sharing it. Maelis understood then, the world did not speak in words. It spoke in frequencies. And slowly, she was learning how to listen. The roses stood taller than the others, their petals rich with color and weight as though holding centuries of memory. They did not bend in comfort, nor did they whisper promises of ease. Instead, they waited, patient and steady, guardians of the delicate line between pain and protection. Maelis knelt among them, fingertips brushing the edges of their petals, feeling a quiet pulse beneath the surface. Overwhelmed by what she felt, she did not choose her words, her heart chose them for her, shaping emotion into poetry. Through nights where sorrow roots too deep, we bloom to guard the wounds you keep. Our thorns are vows the darkness can't undo, and love, once sown, will rise again, true. Maelis pressed the petals to her chest. She realized then that grief was not a burden to escape. It was a shield, a lens, a measure of care. What had wounded her had also taught her endurance. What had taken life had offered perception. She understood. The roses did not heal her. They taught her how to live with what remained. One afternoon, the garden shivered in an unfamiliar tension. A man, careless and hurried, had snapped a branch from one of the older trees. It fell to the ground with a dry crack, the sound echoing like a wound in silence. Maelis froze. The tree did not shout nor tremble violently, it simply quivered, as if every fiber were aware of the loss. She approached slowly, sensing its pain not as an observer but as a participant. Her chest tightened in recognition. She could feel the shock, the quiet ache. The fracture within that had no words. There was no anger, no demand for restitution, only attention. Kneeling before the wounded trunk, she placed her hands lightly on the rough bark. Her voice, low and deliberate, began to form a poem, one born not of imagination, but of empathy. O noble tree, do not bow to sorrow. Your roots still drink the dawn of tomorrow. Though one branch falls, your heart remains, held firm by earth, by sky, by rains. Your leaves will sing, your flowers will rise, new branches will reach toward the skies. Endure, dear friend, your spirit is true, for storms may break, but can't undo you. The tree shivered once more, leaves rustling as if in gratitude. The wound remained, but the tree's life resumed, resilient, unbowed. Maelis rose, understanding clearly healing was not reversal, it was continuation. To the world, Maelis was quiet, perhaps peculiar, often walking through familiar streets as though she belonged elsewhere. Neighbors whispered that she was withdrawn, that she had grown too serious too young. Teachers noticed only her attentiveness and politeness. Friends noticed only her reticence. Few paused to wonder what lingered behind those steady eyes. They did not know about her second life. No one witnessed the garden when it leaned in to listen, the leaves that trembled in answer to a whispered poem, or the petals that offered warmth when grief pressed too close. Fireflies pulsed with their melancholy. Bees carried continuity through seasons. The earth had become her confidant, and she, in turn, its careful observer. Maelis did not flaunt this world, nor did she seek to explain it. Its truths were hers alone. Acceptance of solitude came naturally, not as resignation but as clarity. She had learned that experiences of depth rarely require witnesses. In this private existence, she was neither lonely nor abandoned. She was attentive, awake, and fully present in a world that most could not perceive. Her reality was not less vivid because it was unseen. It was only hers, resonant and authentic. And that sufficed. As dusk settled over the garden, Maelis sat upon the stone bench she had claimed as her own. The air was soft, carrying the faint hum of insects and the subtle sway of trees. She thought of her parents, their voices, the warmth of their hands, the constancy of their presence that life had so abruptly taken. Grief had arrived uninvited, yet she now understood it was not punishment. It was initiation. It had opened her perception, attuned her senses, and reshaped the contours of her heart. She could not return to the world she had known before. That world was gone, irretrievable. And yet, she had been given something new. The garden, the living voices, the quiet responsiveness of nature, they were no longer mere surroundings. They were extensions of her own awareness, mirrored back in ways that spoke of resilience, of continuity, of unseen connections. Maelis belonged to both worlds, the ordinary and the extraordinary, but neither could claim her fully. She had crossed a threshold few recognized, and in doing so, she had discovered that some doors open only after loss. She closed her eyes and breathed in the hush of life that had been listening all along. Maelis closed her eyes, feeling the gentle pulse of life in every leaf, every petal, every flicker of light. Her heart swelled with all she had seen, heard, and felt: grief, wonder, and the quiet strength of the garden. Words rose naturally, carrying the music of her soul, and poured forth in verses only the world itself could fully understand. O flowers, O trees, so patient and tall, within your whispers my heart feels all. You taught me how to hold my pain, and find the light within the rain. Though the world outside remains unchanged, I have shifted, my senses rearranged. So when the ordinary hides its face, I will bloom in your hidden grace. The extraordinary is not elsewhere, it lives beneath awareness, waiting there. She closed her eyes. The garden exhaled around her, not in spectacle, but in steady acknowledgement. The world had not changed, yet she had. And in that subtle transformation, the ordinary became extraordinary. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in gold, Maelis sat quietly in her garden. She thought of her parents, the fairy, the flowers, the fireflies, and the wounded tree. A gentle smile touched her lips as she whispered a final poem, her heart speaking to the world that had healed her. O flowers, O trees, O gentle green, your whispers show the world's unseen. Your laughter heals where sorrow lay, your magic teaches words to stay. When winds grow cold and nights are long, I hear your brave, unending song. I carry you beneath my skin, a garden's light that blooms within. So when the world grows dim and wide, I bloom with you, my secret pride. Maelis closed her eyes, no longer a lonely girl. She was a poet, a keeper of whispers, proof that grief, when listened to, can blossom into beauty. Even the quietest hearts can awaken magic, and even the deepest sorrows can grow into joy. Some stories do not announce themselves. Some hearts, like Maelis's, carry the weight of loss only to transform it into unseen resonance. The extraordinary is not elsewhere, it has always been listening, quietly, beneath perception, waiting for those who dare to hear. Dear friends, remember this: even in the darkest hours, unseen blessings may be waiting for us. If we listen with our hearts, the world itself will speak, and life will bloom like poetry, tender, alive, and endlessly magical. Let Maelis' story remind us that love, once planted, never dies, and that the quietest voices often carry the greatest wonder.